Welcome to Greater Valley Health Center's Privacy and IT Security Training. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It encompasses federal regulations, including the Privacy Rule, which sets standards for individually identified health information, and the Security Rule, which sets standards for protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of electronic medical information. All three of the following elements are required for information to be considered protected health information, or PHI, and to be protected under HIPAA. The health information must describe the past, present, or future health, condition, care or treatment of an individual, or payment for such care or treatment. The information must reasonably identify the individual, and the information must be maintained in an electronic or another form. There are 18 patient identifiers that are considered to be PHI. Some are obvious, like someone's name, social security number, date of birth, or photo, while others are not as obvious, such as a license plate number, account number, or an email address. Note that any unauthorized disclosure of even a single element of the 18 identifiers considered to be PHI could be deemed as a reportable breach. So why do we care so much about privacy? Well, national research tells us that approximately 28% of patients postpone seeking care due to privacy concerns. 60% of patients travel to seek care elsewhere due to privacy concerns. Think about a small town like Eureka, Montana, where there used to be two primary care providers. Now, when those two locations have merged, patients could be concerned to go and seek care there because their friends or family in this small town may be working there. 85% of patients consider reputation for protecting privacy when choosing a care provider, and 27% of patients withhold information from their care provider due to privacy concerns. We are required to protect the entire life cycle of information, from the time that we intake or create PHI to how we use it and disclose it. It is important on how we store PHI with secure electronic and physical barriers. When PHI is no longer needed, be sure to dispose of documents in a secure shred bin, and this goes for any format of PHI. Greater Valley has a Notice of Privacy Practices that outlines how Greater Valley can use and disclose PHI. It is posted in admissions areas and also in the pharmacy. It's on the Greater Valley website and provided to patients at admission with their acknowledgement. Permissible disclosures are those that do not require patient consent every time we make a disclosure. This includes treatment, payment, and operations. In treatment, it includes coordination of care and related services among healthcare providers. For example, if Greater Valley has a patient and we refer him to a specialist, we are able to share that information about the patient with the provider without the patient's consent. Payment. We need to be able to get paid or reimbursed for our services. So we are able to share patient information with billing, collections, and for medical necessity. Operations. In order to run our business and support care functions of treatment and payments, we have the ability to share patient information for administrative reasons, financial, legal, quality improvement, and compliance. Other permissible disclosures include reporting of abuse or neglect, such as adult or child protective services. We are able to disclose public health information of certain diseases, such as AIDS, COVID, or flu, for patient or public safety reasons. We are able to disclose to law enforcement who have court orders, warrants, or some other written proof that tells us that we are able to disclose to them. We are able to disclose to coroners, funeral directors, organ procurement, or to family members and friends who may be picking up prescriptions on behalf of a patient. And there are many other permissible disclosures. These can all be found in the Notice of Privacy Practices. Patients have a variety of rights as outlined in the Notice of Privacy Practices. They have a right to access their medical records through the patient portal or to receive copies of their records in the format of their choosing. They have the right to consent for others to receive copies of their medical records. They may receive a copy of the Notice of Privacy Practices as often as they choose. They may request restrictions to be placed on the uses and disclosures of their PHI for treatment, payment, or healthcare operations. For example, if they wish for us to withhold information from their insurance company, we will do so, but the patient will then be responsible for full payment of their services. They may request communications via particular means, including phone, text, email, mail, etc. They have a right to request to amend their records in writing. Their provider will review their request and determine if the request is valid. And they may request an accounting of disclosures over the past 6 years. This would include things like court orders, CPS, legal requests, or privacy breaches. All of these accounting of disclosures would be things outside of treatment, payment, and operations. The Notice of Privacy Practice also includes a list of patient rights. A patient has the right to access their medical records, whether it's through the patient portal or receive copies of the records in the format of their choosing. They have the right to consent for others to receive copies of their medical records. They may receive a copy of the Notice of Privacy Practices, even if they have received it numerous times in the past. They may request restrictions be placed on the uses and disclosures of their PHI for treatment, payment, or healthcare operations. For example, if a patient does not want us to bill their insurance company, we will comply and the patient would then be responsible for payment for services received. The patient has a right to request communications via particular means such as phone, text, email, mail, etc. The patient may request to amend their records in writing. The provider would then review the request and determine if the request is for a valid reason and in the good interest of the patient. And the patient has the right to an accounting of disclosures over the past 6 years for disclosures that were outside of treatment, payment, and operations. As a medical clinic, we have certain requirements for keeping medical documentation as required by federal and state law. We must maintain documentation for 7 years after the last patient's encounter, 7 years after a patient is deceased, or 10 years after a minor turns 18, and for all Medicare patients. Greater Valley follows the rules of minimum necessary. This is used to identify the amount of PHI that can be used or disclosed in a particular circumstance. It is based on one's role, meaning only allowing employees and others access to the information that is needed to perform their role in the organization. For example, staff in accounting, behavioral health, and dental all have different roles and would have different levels of access into the electronic medical record. Just because one has access to PHI does not mean it is appropriate to access all PHI. What is appropriate to access is based on your role and your need to know in order to do your job at that point in time. EMR access. As a patient at Greater Valley, you have the right to access and obtain a copy of your medical records. However, you may only access patient records on a need-to-know basis, or rather, the information you need to fulfill your job responsibilities. You may not access your own medical records nor those of your family, household members, friends, or colleagues unless it is part of your role and there is no one else who can complete the need at that particular time. A coworker may not access your medical records upon your request. And if you need copies of your medical records, you must sign an authorization form to obtain your records through the Medical Records Department or sign up for the patient portal. Identity confirmation. It is imperative that the identity of the patient or guardian is confirmed before speaking to the individual on the telephone or leaving a message. When handling documents or items containing PHI to the individual, or sending anything by mail or fax. Note that any inappropriate disclosures could result in a privacy breach, which is reportable to the patient and the Office for Civil Rights. If a privacy breach is confirmed, we are required by law to send a first-class letter to the breached patient within 30 days of discovery. The letter must include information on when the breach occurred, when Greater Valley found out about the breach, when the privacy officer found out about the breach, what information was inappropriately disclosed, and what is Greater Valley doing to mitigate the circumstances and prevent it from happening again, and what corrective action, if any, was given to the employee or staff member who was responsible for the breach. In addition, for breaches over 500 patients, we must put a notice on our website and notices posted in the local newspapers. While all of this takes a lot of time, effort, and financial expense, what our real cost in a privacy breach, especially large ones, is our potential loss of patient trust. Secure communications. Texting of PHI is prohibited unless using a Greater Valley IT approved and secure texting program. PHI may not be sent to or from personal devices, nor may it be sent to a personal email account. Email containing PHI may only be sent via email as follows. Enter the word secure, all in capital letters, in the subject line of the email. But remember, the subject line is not secure, so do not put PHI in the subject line itself. The recipient must set up a password in order to open the email. Patients that initiate emails containing PHI do so at their own risk. Do not suggest or recommend that they send PHI to Greater Valley unless they are responding to a secure email that Greater Valley has initiated. Phishing emails are scams that use fake emails to entice you to enter confidential information or download programs with viruses and malware to infiltrate computer systems. They often pretend to be sent by respected companies like banks, internet service providers, credit card companies, etc. And they'll ask for things like your username, passwords, account numbers. By clicking on a link in the email, it may take you to a fake website or product that looks exactly like what it claims to be. And they do this for the purpose of identity theft of yourself or your organization and obtaining confidential information or holding business for ransom. So, how do you know if you received a phishing email? Here are some signs to look for. 1. They may send you an email with a generic greeting or no greeting at all. 2. They may request personal information. 3. There may be buttons with hyperlinks to unfamiliar web pages. 4. There may be unsolicited attachments. 5. If you hover over the sender's email address, you will see the actual email that it is coming from. 6. Hover your mouse over other attachments to reveal misleading URL hyperlinks. And 7. There may be spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes. Many of these are coming from outside of the United States, where English is not their first language. Training exercises in the form of live phishing emails are being distributed on a monthly basis to Greater Valley Health Center staff to help you spot real phishing emails. So watch for things like urgent requests, threatening language, typos and grammatical errors, senders that you don't know, someone who is not addressing you by name, or strange sender email addresses. Remember to hover over the address with your mouse. And fuzzy logos. Oftentimes, hackers are taking logos from websites and internet, and they may not be clear and not legitimate. If you come across a suspicious email, just delete it. Do not open it, do not click on any links or provide any information, nor upload any files. There is no need to notify anyone. But if you do have questions or you are questioning the validity of an email, please contact the IT department. Not only is it important to protect the privacy of our patients, but it's also important to protect Greater Valley's confidentiality, reputation, brand, and image. And we have policies and procedures regarding branding, postings, collateral, outreach events, and social media to guide how we represent ourselves in the community. Branding. Greater Valley has an approved branding guide that is used for all of our communications. Only approved logos may be used and logos may not be altered. The particular logo version used for communications is selected by the marketing department based on how it is used and its purpose. Logos may not be used by staff for any public use in any type of media without the approval of the marketing department. Social media. Greater Valley social media is overseen by the marketing department. Feel free to like or comment on Greater Valley's posts in a positive manner. Non-provider staff are prohibited from using social media to provide medical advice on behalf of Greater Valley. Do not post Greater Valley logos on your personal social media sites. Do not post PHI, including patient photos, on social media, and do not divulge Greater Valley's confidential information via any communication method, including social media. You can find the social media policy in the vault. If someone from the media asks you questions or invites you to be interviewed regarding Greater Valley Health Center, refer them to the CEO or the marketing department. Postings and collateral in Greater Valley. Requests by external entities to post flyers or distribute collateral within Greater Valley should be forwarded to the marketing department. Notices for staff's personal purposes, such as a garage sale, may be posted on the break room bulletin board. Notices should be removed when expired. Flyers, posters, brochures, etc. may not contain offensive or obscene language or images, be of political focus, promote a personal business in public areas, bully, intimidate, or threaten harm or violence, or contain protected health information. Please see the full postings policy in the vault. Greater Valley Collateral. Greater Valley collateral for general public distribution, such as brochures, flyers, direct mail, etc., will be created or approved by the marketing department. Patient forms and other internal documents are required to be approved by the Greater Valley Policies Committee. Well, that wraps up the privacy and IT security training. If you have any questions, please contact Greater Valley's Privacy Officer, IT Security Officer, IT Department, or your supervisor. Thanks for listening.